And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I spotlight my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And we are on day 6 of my Space Horror Festival, where I chose 8 space horror related films from my collection to spotlight and to show a little love to. And tonight we are going to, I had so much fun. We are going to talk about Roger Corman's Galaxy of Terror. This is the Scream Factory remaster of it, which is a joy to have. I mean, come on, that cast is just amazing. This holds a little interesting personal trivial related to my collection. I have a very, very, very huge issue with laziness and time, and so I will not go out of my way or spend a lot of money on anything that is under 90 minutes. And this is one of the very few that I have went out of my way or spent more than $1.50. Because this was pretty expensive, and it's less than 90 minutes. It's like 81 or 82 minutes, and it's like usually I would never support that by buying it or anything. But, you know, this is a classic, and it's a long time ago, and it is just that good to me. A Galaxy of Terror, originally called Mind War, but Galaxy of Terror was released in 1981. It was directed by Bruce D. Clark and written by Marc Siegler, Bruce D. Clark, and William Stout. And it stars, Eddie Albert, Erin Moran, Joni from Happy Days, Ray Walston, it has Robert Englund in it when he was still a baby. I mean, he looks so young in this movie, and he is so cool. He plays Ranger. Erin plays Aluma. Who else is in it? Grace Zabriskie, for God's sake. She's one of my favorite character actresses of all time. She is in this. It's just, this cast is just amazing. Ray Walston, Robert Englund, Haig, Grace Zabriskie, like I said, Jack Blessing. I mean, that is one thing that Roger Corman was really good about, and that is that people can make fun of his crazy movies like Bloody Mama and stuff like this, but everyone wanted to work with him. Actors, they love to work with Roger Corman. And young directors, special effects people, they all gave their left arm to work and took, it's like, I'll work with you for no money. I mean, if you go and look at documentaries and stuff, everybody was just okay. And that's the reason why, no matter what you think of whatever particular movie you're talking about of his, no matter what you think of it, you're often amazed at by who's in it. Who's doing the special effects. He gave so many breaks to young directors who went on to be really famous ones, young actors that are now icons, because this was 1981. So, Robert Englund was just right there before Nightmare on Elm Street. And Erin Moran and Grace Zabriskie and especially Ray Walston and stuff like that. I mean, these are phenomenal actors, and yet they're working these little cheap, berated by critics sci-fi shows, little sci-fi and horror movies and stuff. And so I think that's pretty cool. But yes, Galaxy of Terror was released in 1981, and the movie opens. I actually love the cinematography in this movie. I just love everything about this movie. But the movie opens on this paranoid guy, obviously on a spaceship. He's running around from something that you can't see. And then we see him getting killed, which is actually the first clue. Now, I mean, you can go back through this movie and you can see all the clues that you, as a viewer, probably aren't going to, catch until you find out the answer. So we see him then getting killed by something. And in the reflection of the room, we can see this creature. But when he's thrown across the room, you don't see anything. So you don't really know what's going on. Then we're introduced to planet Xerxes and the Oracle. We're the planet master, who's like, yes, I think it's time, because he's talking to her. Yeah, I think it's time. So he calls his little underling and tells them that he wants them to put together a crew, that he has choice of who these crew members are, and he wants to put together a rescue mission to go after this downed ship on the planet Organthus, to rescue these people. And so we then get to see that. We see the assembled crew, Captain Trainer, which is Grace Zabriskie. We see Core, who's the cook, who is Ray Walston. We see Ranger, who is Robert Englund. Cabrin, who is Eddie Albert. Aluma, that's Erin Moran. Demea, I don't know who she is. Quahud, Ivar is the commander, and Koss, and yeah, so you got a nice healthy little supply of bodies here. And that's another thing about this movie, is that this movie pops. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of time spent in between once the shit gets going. You know what I'm saying? And that is one of its only problems, is that I would have liked a lot of more backstory. But he did still put enough in for you to get a feel for each one of these characters, because that was really important, which is why I don't really understand the runtime, because the whole nature of this movie revolves around you knowing these characters individually to understand what happens to them, right? And so this is like, if you have to pick 5 movies that you would do anything for a quality, faithful remake to be done of them, this is one that I would be, and it needs to be an hour and 50 minutes long, and it needs to go into more character study of each one of these things to more understand what happens to each one of them. So they head to the planet, and once they get there, there's a malfunction, but she manages to land it. About half the crew goes to the other ship, looking for survivors, which is what they're there for. That's their job. So they go there to do that, but everyone's dead, and they find the bodies. They search the ship. We do see Koss being stalked by some little bug-looking creature, but it's not a little bug. It's more of a big, big bug, like half the size of your body type big. And so we see him, and I tell you what, that dude is the biggest walking vagina that I've ever seen in my life, because he is one fraidy cat. I don't understand what he was doing on this crew. I don't understand why the game master would have chose someone that is so jumpy. I mean, that scene where the cord fell down on him, like a electrical cord, and it falls down and hits him. Dude, he screams like he screams like someone like That was funny. It's very funny. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this movie, so you know what I'm talking about. But it's pretty hilarious. So they end up deciding to go back to their ship. Right before they do, though, they all get out the ship, and Koss gets attacked and killed by this giant cockroach-looking thing with like this prong thing that like cuts into his head and all. It's gross, and it's like perfect. It's really good because of course there's no CGI. Really great special effects in this movie, and they're all practical, and they did an amazing job on it. So he gets killed, and they go back to the ship where they discuss what the hell happened to him because they couldn't find nothing. Why is he dead? And all of this kind of stuff. There's still 4 crew members from that ship, though, that are missing. And that is their job to go and try to find them. So they end up finding this like really cool pyramid structure, and they investigate it. We see Ivar killed by some tentacles. Commander Ivar, he's like, that was really cool because it really reminded me of a Nakaline feeder from Babylon 5. That's exactly what it looked like with those suction tentacles and stuff. So if you know, I'm sure somebody out there just has watched Babylon 5. The Nakaline feeder that Londo was so afraid of. That's what this thing looked like, and it was really cool. So he gets killed by that. They do manage to get inside. The Uad, or Aud, or something like that is how you say his name, but he uses those giant crystal shurikens. He ends up, being killed by them. The grossest scene ever, Damea, she's killed by this giant maggot, right? Because she's got like a fear of worms. So this giant maggot kills her, and I, to this day, do not know what the fuck that worm was doing to her. I think I do. Especially since there were a couple of things. That dude that got mad at her, Cabron. There's 2 guys, their names are so much alike. Eddie Albert is Cabron and Balon. Balon had said a kind of like a couple of really rude things to her. And it's almost like this kill scene was a mixture of those 2 things, and I really don't like that. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like it for some technical reason. I'm just saying it grosses me the fuck out, is what I'm saying. But she gets killed by this giant worm, and the things that it is doing to her, I'm not quite sure. And I think that I intentionally have always kept it not quite sure because I just prefer it that way. I'm just saying it's like smothering her to death. That's what I'm going to say it was doing. And so she gets killed by the giant maggot. That's when you start noticing that Cor, the cook, he's like acting really weird. Especially because Ranger, Robert Englund, Ranger and the captain, Zabriskie, the captain and Ranger and Cor, they're the only ones left on the ship. They've all went to that pyramid thing. And Cor ends up like knocking out Ranger. And Zabriskie's had some kind of trauma in the past about some kind of doomed mission that she was the only survivor of. And every time it's mentioned, you can see it on her face. She has like, I don't think PTSD is the word. It's like ultra super PTSD about it. So she starts thinking that they're being attacked by that race that had done that. And Cor runs in there after knocking Ranger out, and he's like trying to get her to stop. because she's like literally firing the guns on the ship, and they're not supposed to be shot planet bound. They can damage the ship, doing that. So he's in there trying to stop her, and he's like, there is no attack. This is not real. Stop, And for a minute, she kind of like gets a grip on herself, but then she's like, no, they're attacking, and this time they're not going to get me. And she ends up grabbing this giant, like that big wrestler in Predator, that, not the Gatling gun, but something similar. And she starts to run out, and it like burns her alive at the front door. That was a really cool scene, So Ranger wakes back up. He doesn't really understand. The rest, those that are still alive, which is Balon and Cabrin, Aluma, they return to the ship. And all the others, they're fucking dead. And they tell what happens, and they all want to leave. Everybody wants to leave. But they have a mission, right? The field that caused them, this like magnetic field that caused them to crash in the first place, is still there. They can't take off. It's at that pyramid, and they have to neutralize it, or they can't take off. So, okay, fine. Everybody is going to go back to the pyramid now. Core and Ranger joins them, and they go back to try to locate this thing, to find the source. Now, Ranger does tell Cabrin about this incident with Core and the captain and her death and all that, explains what's going on, and he says there's something up with that guy and he don't trust him and so forth and so on. So they go back to the thing looking for him, looking for the source of this field that keeps them from taking off. Baylor is killed by this really cool horned demon looking thing. Ranger accuses Core of being involved, and they have this big fight, and Core like disappears, and the last three of them are separated. Like each one of them like goes through a door, but they're no longer together. They're in like a room of their own, And so I put in parentheses the final contestants, because that's what this is all feeling like. Is like some kind of Hunger Games, right? So Ranger, in his little personal battle, he ends up like fighting with himself, like literally, like there is another him, and they're like fighting and everything. Towards the end of the fight, he starts kind of realizing it. So Ranger's the first one to like really realize what's going on here, and that is, he's like, this. There's no way that this can be real. I'm literally fighting with myself. And he kind of realizes that his entire life he's been fighting with himself about who he is, what he wants, things like that. And he realizes that, and his doppelganger like disappears, and he kind of knows the secret. So Aluma, that's the scene that I still can't watch to this day. She has claustrophobia, like really, really bad. And she crawls through this tunnel, which is obviously her test, right? Because you're starting to figure all this out. It's obviously her test, and rather than she fails, rather than her coming to the realization that if she would just calm down and stop screaming and stop resisting, that this isn't real, but she doesn't. And all of these, like, it looks like tree roots, and they like come all over her, and they're like squeezing her to death, and it's really gross. and one wraps around her forehead and the other wraps around her mouth, and it like squeezes her head. It's basically like if you were tied up against a wall and these tree roots came around you and then just pulled right through you and squeezed you. That's what it did. And I can handle the neck down shit, but when her head pops, that's it. You know, it's like I'm looking over here because it literally causes me a type of anxiety that I can't deal with. So I still don't watch that scene. Like as soon as it starts squeezing her head, I'm like, okay, what is that? And then after I hear the pop, you know, I'm like, oh, it was nothing. And I look back at the screen. So I like still can't watch that scene to this day. It causes a strange feeling inside of me. Some people might say I was morphing into a chicken at that time, and that's the feeling that I'm feeling. You know, like if you transform into a werewolf, but I'm transforming into a big chicken. And I guess that's, you know, you could insult me that way if you want to. But I'm not watching that fucking scene, okay? It's only 2 seconds that I have to look away, so fuck off. But Cabron then finds her, and then Ranger finds him all about the same time, right? He finds her body and sees what happened to it, and then Ranger finds him, and Ranger's like, hey, I figured all this out. I was fucking fighting with myself. This isn't real. It's like bringing our fears to life. Our biggest fears are being brought to life by whatever this fucking place is. And Cabron's like, you know, I just figured that out myself when I saw what happened to her. Because they were kind of like together, and it's like she is like super claustrophobic, and look what happened to her. It's kind of obvious that this is like your greatest fear is coming true. So now that he realizes what he saw, Cor then like steps out and is like, okay, y'all figured it out, but it's still not over. You know, and they end up going after him, but Ranger, he stays, and Cabron goes up and chases him, and then we have this final showdown between them where he asks, you know, why did you do this? What the fuck is going on? And this is like the part that like most people don't understand. I really don't understand what's so important about this game master, but he ends up like, you know, because he's like, this has all been a choice by the game master, who is Cor, to pick his successor. And Cabron goes through one more last battle, or two actually. First, he faces everything that each of his crew members faced. He's attacked by that horned demon. He's attacked by the big cockroach. He's attacked by the giant maggot. He's hit with the Knockaline feeder tentacles. You know, everything that was done to his crewmates is done to him in this like super fast succession. And he beats every one of them. And then he faces the final one, which is all of his dead crewmates come and attack him. And it was, I guess, his final thing to, this isn't real. And then he turns around and he shoots Cor and takes his power. And now Cor is just like an old man laying there. And he's like, you know, I would never do what you've done. And he's like, well, you're the game master now. Do it or don't do it. But, you know, you're going to stand by and watch your society fall into chaos and ruin. Now, that's the part I don't understand. What is the game master? What does he do that keeps society from falling into chaos? I don't know. I mean, you know, if he had said something like, if he was like basically Queen Elizabeth, you know, like during the Golden Age, like keeping the country together through political will but why was he called the Game Master? Well, obviously this. And he also tells them what this place is, and that is, it's a place that he knew about, but it's not them. It's a playground, a toy, that this ancient dead race used as almost like entertainment. They would come, they would face their fears and be a stronger person and go back. But he has kept it secret, and only the game master knows, about this place, and uses it for this purpose. So I don't know. That's the part that's like, I don't really understand what the game master's purpose was, but that's okay. Because the fucking movie is phenomenal, and I don't really give a shit when it comes right down to it. I'd like to know, but it doesn't matter. So it turns out that Ranger and Cabron, so this has two final boys, and both of them live, because nothing happened to Ranger. He kills the master, he takes the power, and he is the master now, and this is a 9 out of 10 to me because of so many factors. I know there's probably a lot of people out there and goes like, oh my god, 9 and 10 out of 10. That's only for The Godfather and stuff like that. Well, that's your collection, and that's your opinion, and that's your stuff. That has nothing to do with me. It's a 9 out of 10 to me, for various reasons. Well, so is The Godfather and Casino and Scarface and a whole bunch of other movies. But so is Galaxy of Terror. Yes, Galaxy of Terror is just as important to me, artistically, entertainment-wise, and as a film, as The Godfather and Scarface. Get over it. Everybody's different. So, yes, this is a 9 out of 10 to me. I absolutely love this fucking movie. The nostalgia, the actors, to see Erin Moran, to see Eddie Albert when he was young, to see Robert Englund, to see Grace Zabriskie, who is like, I love her in so many movies. Bastard Out of Carolina comes to mind. Norma Ray comes to mind. She is just wonderful. I've always loved her. But these are a lot of really people you recognize, and to see them in this movie. And it's a very, very fun movie. It's just so entertaining. And the stop motion animation that they use for some of the creatures is absolutely phenomenal. The practical effects are just bonsoir, tout sweet, chef's kiss kind of thing. And you can see why Shelley Winters wanted to be Bloody Mama for him. And you can see why all these directors and special effects people flocked to him. I think it's because he allowed this kind of stuff to be when mainstream Hollywood wouldn't. And it shows. And so, yes, that's Galaxy of Terror for day 6 of my Space Horror Festival. I absolutely love it. This also comes with a little booklet. It's not like as big as the other one, but it's got a little booklet. A lot of special features are on the Blu-ray that Scream Factory done, interviews and things like that. Nice, cool little booklet in it. So this is definitely a really good release. If you want it in your collection, just go hunt for the Shout Factory special edition or collector's edition of Galaxy of Terror. It also comes with the reversible cover with the original title. See, it was originally called Mind Warp, An Infinity of Terror. Okay, Mind Warp. I thought it was Mind War, but Mind Warp. So yeah, so you could even choose to do that if you wanted to. I don't. It's Galaxy of Terror to me. I'm glad they changed the name. I don't think Mind Warp does it justice. Because that girl getting whatever by that giant maggot was, definitely a Galaxy of Terror. So I will see you in day 7. Love you, miss you, bye-bye. Always remember and never forget, you're a very special person. No matter what anybody says to you, even if you're not a redhead. And I will see you in day 7. Bye-bye.